Morning. We're back from our short Wednesday morning break to continue our customer engagement webinar today. This is webinar number 2, the only other one of the day, actually just 2 of us today. And then we can leave you to go off and enjoy the sunshine this afternoon. But this one is around how to thrive in the always on digital era. If you've just joined us this morning, where were you an hour ago? We missed you, but welcome back. If you have just rejoined us and you've come in for number 2, we are going to be chatting for the next 45 minutes or so. For those of you that have just joined, I'm Darren. For those that have never met me before, I wear a few different hats. I have a consultancy called Williams Harding, which is unbelievably nearly 5 years old. I have a skincare business called Scrubbed and a PR company called Liberty. How's that for a mix? And I do some of this for the Retail Bulletin, and I get to meet lots of interesting people that you'll be meeting in just a second. Don't forget, it's your webinar too. So if you want to ask a question, find the Q&A button wherever that might be on the device that you're using, and use it for me. And I promise you that every single question that gets asked will be answered as well. You might have a question for one of these people in particular. You might have a general panel question, or you might want to comment on something that they're saying. Please do use the Q&A function for that. But for now, I'm going to ask these lovely people to mention who they are, introduce themselves, and then we can dive into the content properly. So starting please with Danny, if I may. Danny, good morning, welcome.
Morning, thanks Darren, morning everybody. I'm Danny Hunt. I am head of multi-channel at Redeye. I've been there now for 16 years. I'm not showing off because I still feel like I'm winging it. I work with lots of departments internally these days, but I suppose, you know, on a day-to-day basis, I still help the client-facing team set up multi-channel campaigns that are going to drive, you know, great engagement and ultimately fantastic revenues. So that's me. Thank you.
Welcome back, and thanks to Redeye as well, because you guys have been great supporters of the Retail Bulletin over the years as well, and we really do appreciate it. But it's lovely to have you with us, and thank you, Danny. Alex, tell us about you, sir.
Hey there, yeah, so I'm a customer service experience leader. We can explain customer service and customer experience at some stage, but typically I work for organizations. I've worked for the company that owns British Airways and other airlines. I've worked for global logistics companies, companies that sell alcohol, companies in financial services. And I'm the guy that in a company always tries to point out, that's pretty awful for the way we treat our customers. So I typically run the contact centers, the customer operations, the digital, the social media, and there's this whole craze of putting chatbots on top of things, which is making things worse, in my opinion. So for the last 18 months, I've been working for a digital startup bank here in the Middle East. And we are going to try and launch with the best customer service experience in banking, which is quite a low bar.
The worst chatbot I ever used was one of the big mobile companies, the big mobile phone companies, and my phone was nearly launched out of the window after about an hour of trying to discuss with this bot. So yeah, I hear that pain 100%. Good to have you back with us, Alex. Philippe, let's hear from you. Welcome, sir.
Hi guys, so my name is Philippe. I work for Bluebella. It's a lingerie company in London, and what I do, well, I take care of marketing. So I'm a marketing manager. Basically, I touch every single channel you can think of, both paid and organic. So the customer journey and the customer on the website, that's what I take care of, making sure that they have the best experience offsite and onsite at the same time.
Welcome, sir. You've been on various panels before, but ever with the Retail Bulletin? And remind me.
Yes, I was. I think about a year ago or 2 years ago.
Great. Welcome back. Thanks for coming back and sticking with us again.
No worries.
And then Chantal, last but not least, introduce us to you, please.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Chantal. I'm Senior Director for CRM and Loyalty at Sixt in the UK. And I've been here since the beginning of the year. And previously, I've had various roles in Shell and Subway and the Engine Group as well, and some consultancy and the Al Shire Group in Kuwait. So, yeah, looking forward to hearing any difficult questions you want to throw at me.
Welcome back again to the Retail Bulletin. We're so lucky to get such great support, and we have all these lovely panelists that come and work with us time and time again, and some new people that come to the gang as well. So Everyone is welcome here, and your audience is welcome too. You are our reason for existing, having an audience. Otherwise, we'll just be talking to ourselves, which is lovely. But I'm sure we all got better things to do than that. So reminder, please do use that Q&A button. But we're going to kick off now with the content proper. Danny, I'm going to start with you, if I may, please. Consumers, we talked about it a lot in the previous webinar. I'm not sure whether you had a chance to see it or not, but the demands that consumers have now, the higher expectations they have from brands, they're just increasing. And I think the pandemic has almost, heightened that as well. But many brands are struggling with resources and therefore finding it difficult to deliver good customer experiences. How can brands manage it, deliver better, offer more personalized customer experiences? What would your advice be?
Thanks, Darren. That's quite a chunky question.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. There's quite a lot in one. Call that a 3-in-1. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm totally with you. I can't really sugarcoat it, so I'm not going to. Post-pandemic, it is very different for both brands and consumers right now. And probably like everybody else, I kind of remember 2019 and it was quite jolly then. And none of us knew what was going to hit. But now we've got consumers, of course, facing tighter budgets with the cost of living crisis at the moment. There's competition, shopping around for the best prices is super important for the general public. And of course, brand loyalty, therefore, can easily be compromised. So, it's a case of people just living without rather than sort of treating themselves as they would have done normally. And also brands, they've got competition. Resources are challenged with the Great Resignation. There's logistical problems with the cost of transport, supply issues, no staff, limited marketing budgets, the list goes on. And it does sound a bit doomy and gloomy. But there are things you can do because consumers, they're not naive and they do understand that companies are struggling. So I think the key to this is communication. So my first recommendation, service messages definitely need to be delivered as much as possible where necessary, because nothing infuriates a customer is a massive turn-off. Because they've spent their hard-earned cash and bought from you, and then to find out that their product's delayed or it's no longer available, and to have no communication or updates to the whole purchase process, they're just not going to use you again. So service messages are absolutely key to the brand-consumer relationship more than ever, but not just email. So SMS has that immediacy that can work really well in these sort of scenarios. However, if you are going to use SMS, it's really important to get the tone of that message right. I think we've all seen in the news, some travel companies got it completely wrong. But of course, when things are going well, make sure that you do promote good feedback and reviews to your best advocates, because that still works really well in terms of generating engagement and interest, in that purchase process. But I suppose going back to the staff issues, if brands are struggling resource-wise and potentially using an outsource model is just not an option, then definitely automation is the best solution. Technology is such now, these days, everything can be automated. So not just your service messages, but your marketing comms too. The beauty is that you can automate not just sort of the timing, but you can automate the content and the channel, and that makes sort of communication very personalized and relevant. And I suppose the number one benefit of automation is that, once it's set up, it runs itself and does all the hard work for you. So if there are challenges with staff and resource, this is the time to automate as much as possible. And also, before I finish this, I hope it's enough, but I wanted to remind everybody that we're only 4 months away from the beginning of peak. So I would definitely make life easier by putting all of these recommendations in place now, especially, Darren, because this economic climate, we don't know how things are going to be in the autumn. So planning ahead sounds like definitely the best idea to me. That's it.
Yeah, it's scary, right? We've had quite a few Christmas meetings in scrubbed and pretty much laid down the plan. It's just like, bizarre having it all chatting about when you've got 27 degrees outside, but yeah, it's just going to hit us like a train out of nowhere. Before we know it, we'll be there. So,
and it goes like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Danny. Great opener. Sorry to hit you with kind of 3 questions in one, but you delivered beautifully. So thank you so much for that. And take a sip of something while I move on to Alex for a sec. Alex, I'm going to come to you, sir, if I may. Customers, chopping, changing, moving around channels, moving around brands, with their own personal lifecycle management. How can companies possibly set themselves up to deliver the CX that the customer really wants?
Yeah, okay, so I have a very simple viewpoint, and there's so many buzzwords in this thing called CX. So first of all, I think as if I'm a customer, and there are so many bad experiences we all have. We could all list 15, 20 plus, but let's start with the customer life cycle. The customer life cycle starts with, okay, there's a product I want, or there's a brand I want to explore. So too many companies think chatbots and AI are things you can plug in to support. But no, you need to start with, okay, a customer has a question. That everything starts with a question. So let's try and find out, do we know what stage this customer's life cycle is at? If you don't, then you have to start to try and establish that. But if you know, here's a customer who's starting to ask questions about potential new products or services, don't just put a chatbot or FAQs, make it possible for them to ask it in the way they want to, which should mean Twitter, Facebook, it should mean your app, should mean your website, it should mean a contact center. But each of those channels need to have the same repository of knowledge. And the repository of knowledge is static, but you also need to make sure a customer can ask you a question in natural language, this thing NLP, and every day people are saying, right, okay, Darren asked a question of us, and we said to Darren, that's a great question. Sorry, we don't have the answer now. We're going to pass you on to a human being. But then you close that loop the next day. Okay, why didn't we have the answer? So too many companies are trying to put these chatbots off the shelf. And actually, the biggest thing that a company needs is a thing called a brain. And the brain is the CRM platform, which 9 times out of 10 I use so incredibly incorrectly. So the CRM platform basically will say, here's Darren. He's a customer that spent 20 minutes on our website asking questions about mobile phones yesterday. He seemed to be interested in the Samsung. So let's just record that. We know that's Darren. So when Darren next comes back to us, hey, Darren, we can see you were looking into our Samsung yesterday. Yeah, and you can make it a sexy avatar, whatever you like. Is there something you want to continue doing with that? And you can then say, yeah, I want to know, is this the new version or is there one coming out in 2 months? All these questions, all these interactions go into Darren's record, but they don't go into Darren's record so you can market and cross-sell and upsell. They go into Darren's record so he gets the most easy personalized interactions from then onwards. So let's follow that chain onward. So Darren wants to place an order for that phone, but he wants to know, I'm leaving the country in 2 days. Will it definitely be here in 2 days? So if you think how easy is it to ask that question now, it's practically impossible, isn't it? You would, chatbot would say transferring to an agent who would never answer you. So take that data and, okay, Darren, based on where you live or based on the address, let's just double check that's where you mean. And looking at our ERP system, we have them in stock in your branch, in your nearest branch 20 minutes away. So we can get one there for you to go and click and collect. And you go and collect it. And when you arrive at the store, the omni-channel kicks in and it's seamless. So all of these things are part of, at the moment, they're all treated in silos, aren't they? So let the customer ask the question how they want to, through the channel they want to, understand their life cycle journey, and then take that to the last stage. You get the phone, you don't blink and like it. I've always used iOS, it's Android, happened to me. I want to return it. How easy is it to return? You should just literally be able to say, hey, company X, this phone I've ordered, I want to return it. Because the natural language should be able to take those words, turn it into question, and not say, which phone are you talking about, Darren? Which order is it you want to return? And by the way, yeah, you can just drop it back at the store you bought it from, and don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. So just taking that single scenario, there are so many failure points that don't exist in businesses, but they're so easy to put right. So companies just need to stop having one department looking after social media, one looking after digital, one after the app, one after CRM.
Really siloed, yeah.
customer-centric vision, but every part of the life cycle journey needs to be mapped against that. And that's what I always try to do. Sometimes I succeed more often than I fail, but that's what companies need to do from now onwards, because their customer service experience is just woeful. Even the biggest and greatest Amazon, if your parcel gets lost or delayed, oh, well, you'll get a refund in 10 days. I don't want a refund. I want it today because it's for a wedding,
Yeah.
you know? So, but there are no companies I see thinking that way, but that's what we need to be doing, I think.
Good stuff. Thank you, sir. Good to have you back. And yeah, absolutely rich, insightful stuff there. And I'm sure lots of people were nodding enthusiastically out there about your comments on some of the experiences or service being delivered. I can see our first questions in, but I'm going to come to it in a bit. I want to hear from each of our panelists first, and then I will come back to the question from the audience. Thank you. Philippe, thank you for waiting patiently, sir. How can this user behavior that we're talking about fuel marketing efforts to kind of drive those engaged customers or find them and bring them to your business?
Perfect point and a great question. Thank you. And it's actually coming back to Danny's and Alex's point in a way, is putting that customer in the center. So understanding the data that you have on your website and understanding what they actually do on your website. So you kind of have to rub shoulders with your customers and have a conversation with them, both on your website, on the phone, within the emails, and obviously the social channels. Social channels for us actually are the biggest channels that we have conversation with our customer. So that's the first part that you have to kind of cover, making sure that you understand what your customer needs, what are the problems, and then you come up with solutions. Once you have the solutions, you can drive that customer back to your website through different channels. So either whether it's email, whether it's social channels, affiliate. Once you understand what your customer is doing, then you know where to catch them in a way. So whether they're traveling on the train, maybe they or they probably are on the mobile phones. So you have to make sure that whatever you advertise to them, it's easy to digest. So whether it's an image or a video, making sure that you have your subtitles and you can use as many automations as you want. You're just making sure that they're quite smart and that they understand what your customer actually needs. So finding that customer is not always easy, especially after COVID and after Brexit, which didn't help any of the businesses, I think. So making sure that, to find that customer, you have to understand what they do. So what content they read, what do they engage with, both on-site and off-site. And once you understand that, then you know where they are. So even with us, we run quite a lot of advertisements on social. And that understanding getting harder and harder with the iOS update. So you need to feed your data back to your social channels and making sure that the social channels understand your customer and understand the behavior on the website as well. So it's feeding information back to the advertisement and making sure that they feed back the customers that you actually want and not the broad matches or random customers that might not want to land on your website and might be quite upset, especially if you sell lingerie and you target the wrong customer, lands on the website, sees our models and might get a bit surprised. So understanding your customer, I think that's the vital point that any business, whether it's retail, whether it's service-based, have to put as a point one in their kind of agenda. And making sure that you talk with your whole team. So you have your customer service, you have your marketing team, you have your web team, and have a meeting at least once a month or even more often than that. And so that they can share the problems, especially with the customer service, because they are your potential customer probably, and they understand your customers because they know the problems and they can give you so many ideas that you might not have think of, because you kind of sometimes you close yourself to just marketing or just the website, and you might lose sight of your customer. So customer service is probably the best resource that you have within your business that you can use.
Got it. Thank you and welcome back. And I'm going to move on to your colleague Chantal, if I may, because she's been waiting a long time to add her point, and then we're going to do another whole round of questions and start talking to our audience as well. Chantal, thank you for being so patient. How these customers were talking about engaging with us and coming back to see us. What if it's a low frequency purchase? How do you get customers to engage with you on those transactions?
Sure. Thanks, Darren. Yeah, so that's my challenge in Sixt, most well known for rental cars, which is a low frequency product unless you're a business customer. For me, in Sixt, what we're trying to do is really around a lot of forecasting. So people do need car hire more than just their holidays. My job is to make sure that it keeps front of mind in terms of for customers. I mean, it goes back to the data, right? So there's triggers and there's cues, and my colleagues have all talked about customer service as a great channel to find, you know, if customers are trying to find out about opportunities for car rental and costs, etc. So to use those triggers, but there's also triggers in the data. And what I continuously find throughout my career is that we're pretty habitual, right? So we tend to take our holidays at the same time, especially if you've got kids or whatever your constraints are. We are pretty habitual. So use the triggers in the data that are already there, previous data, etc., to at least for that one car rental or whatever that low frequency is, to make sure that Sixt is top of mind. But then also, you know, people move houses, they need to move kids to university, whatever, also to keep our brand top of mind using those data points. So sometimes that's quite hard to do because, you know, databases aren't in the right place. They're spread out all over the companies, as the company, as my colleagues have said. But I think you can find, using some common sense, you can actually find some of these trigger points. And that's what we're trying to do with Sixt without the perfect systems and everything that we've talked about. Yeah, we have to get a little bit creative, but there's enough trigger points there, even for the low, to turn low frequency into slightly higher low frequency, if I can put it like that.
And do you find in that sort of low frequency transaction of the car hire world, do you find that you can see the sort of similar pattern from your customers? So the same people are coming back around the same time each year, or do they move like in other general retailers? Do they move around all the car hire companies and kind of come back every few years?
Yeah, they do. It's a very price sensitive industry, and also at the moment, because of everything that Danny mentioned, life at the moment is tough, right? Fuel prices, fleet shortage, chip shortage, all of that stuff is particularly affecting car rental at the moment. So yeah, people are absolutely shopping around. The thing we have to do is, going back to Alex's points, it's about customer service every single time, and you've got to marry the two together and remind customers why they want to choose our brand over our competitors. But it's a very, very challenging landscape at the moment, and that's where building customer loyalty is so important, and a consistent delivery experience.
Got it. Yeah, I don't think we've seen even the worst of it yet in terms of what's yet to come with this cost of living crisis that we're in. So we will have to hunker down. So I understand the price sensitivity piece is huge, particularly in your sector right now as well. Thank you, Chantal. Danny, I'm going to come back to you if I can. In this hugely digital world that we're living in, competition for any brand is literally, you know, between clicks, in a way of driving engagement from their customers. So it's a minefield out there. And how do sort of customers find you? How do brands overcome and manage and all of that noise out there, all those clicks? What examples might you have of new and different ways that brands are talking to or successfully engaging with their customers?
Okay, I'm going to make you all laugh now, because about 10 years ago, I was asked to write a blog about the future of email as a channel. And I think I suggested something like smelly vision or scratch and sniff email. I think the blog is still out there, so it's worth a good chuckle. I still think it's a brilliant idea, but you know, nobody's taken me up on it yet. But actually, there's some really nice content pieces that we've achieved with email in particular over the last few years. Integrations have allowed us to put things like social proofing in there. You know, 5 people are looking at this right now, 10 people have bought this today. There's product recommendations, upsells, cross-sells. We can even present their preferred way to pay, for example, in these call to action buttons, and lots of sort of other interactivity, such as live polls, scratch and reveal, all of that sort of agile content that's available. But a lot of brands might think, ooh, that seems like a bit tricky to put live, but the reality is there's lots of really simple ways to maximize your engagement with a bit of clever segmentation and dynamic content. So I've got an example here for you. So you could set up an algorithm. You've got simple logic. So basically you're sending out, you've got your abandoned basket segment, but also you include the selection that they've also looked at delivery pages. So in that sense, you can kind of assume that they've been put off by the additional cost of that delivery. So dynamically, everybody gets their abandoned basket emailer, but for those particular individuals, you know, you can give them an incentive, you know, and that, you know, that's the cost saving for the brand as well. So that's like a really simple thing that everybody can do if they've got the data. But I think it really is important to understand your data, because if you're capturing it, you should be using it one way or another, because it's only going to benefit you as a retailer and then as a consumer. So really, the truth is, if you don't know what data you have, you know, just ask your IT department, you know, give me a list of parameters and fields that you've got, you know, because unless you understand it, you won't be able to use it. But as I said before, automation really makes all of this really, really achievable and pretty much guarantees that engagement and that all-important customer relationship. Probably, well, multi-channel, Darren, has proved that we can't be one-trick ponies either. It's really not enough. I think the guys have sort of alluded to it already. It's not enough just to send emails these days. Consumers are shopping in many, many different ways, and different generations just behave differently now. You know, there's no getting away from that. You know, email's still very valid and cheap, but if you want to get the most out of it and maximum audience, you know, you've got to back it up with other channels. So social is definitely a must. And, you know, I suppose my last point has got to be, it doesn't always have to be about the hard sell. I really think that, you know, the companies that are totally smashing it right now are sort of telling their story, and, you know, they're establishing consumer relationships that way. So, you know, Instagram, live streaming is just so powerful right now, you know, so, you know, getting followers, not just subscribers, is really important, because I think if you're a follower, you're much more likely to sort of engage with all the other channels than you would if you were just a subscriber, if that makes sense.
It does indeed. And you know, we're all going to go searching for that blog now as well, right?
It is. It's still very valid. Yeah. One day, I still hope that becomes a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So do I. Thank you, Danny. Great second round of questions. Thank you. Alex, I'm going to come on to you if I may. Customers are all over the place at multiple touch points before, during, and after purchases. What's the best way to capture all of those interactions internally and use them to maximize customer loyalty? Have we lost you, Alex? This is one of those live show moments. Alex, are you there? No sound, sir. I can see you waving. I'll let you try to fix your sound, and I'll come back to you as well. It's always good. We always, you know, we can deal with curveballs on live broadcasts. That's how the best of them do it. Philippe, rescue me. Test your sound.
I'm good, I think.
Excellent, good. Welcome back. I'm going to come on to sort of balancing website automations to follow on from some of the things you and I were talking about before.
Sure.
So balancing website automations, avoiding oversaturation versus amplifying engagement. There's quite a lot to unpack in that. Help us out.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short, making sure we leave some time for the rest of the panelists. But that one is very tricky because there's like an invisible line between our customers. And sometimes if you throw too many automations or too many emails, overlays, and messages at the customer, you can easily push them away from your website and from your brand. And by not having enough automations or enough messages that you can send to your customer, it might be harder for you, or might be a bit more expensive for you, or you might just lose that customer because you're not communicating with them enough. So, for example, with us, I remember when I started with Bluebell, I think 7 years ago, our emails or our overlays were very simple. So all you had was, that exit intent pop up. So you try to leave and you get 10% off. That's it. You shop and you get a percentage, like a discount code or something, and that's all you get. So there were not many smart flows in a way. So right now, everything has changed. So there's more technology than ever. Every single company is moving to digital. So everyone's to have, you know, a website, especially after COVID. You know, I think that was a significant point when everything kind of turned into online world. But coming back to the question, once you have too many flows going on at the same time, it can upset the customer. So for example, imagine you buy straight away, you get a message with 15% off code. And I had that in the past. So I bought at full price, didn't look for the discount code. And right away, within a minute, I've got the discount code for 15% off next order. And then in my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to cancel that order. I'm going to use that discount code. I'm going to order the same thing again. But, you know, so that kind of stuff can upset the customer as well, because in a way, you can think, okay, they're just trying to sell you more stuff without thinking of what I'm actually in need, and they're just sending a blanket discount code. That's an old way of doing things. I think we need to be smarter and kind of adjust to what your customer is buying and how they kind of behaviors on the website. So by having too many flows, you kind of can spam the customer a bit as well. And basically they'll just unsubscribe, and they'll leave your website, and they might not shop with you anymore. So it's that invisible line, making sure that you don't overstep and you kind of step on it, which is hard. But it's all about testing and making sure that you understand what your customer actually needs. And kind of same thing goes for overlays. Those two are kind of easy examples that I can think of straight away. So with overlays, it's the same situation. If your overlay doesn't understand, so a pop-up, if your pop-up doesn't understand what you're doing on the website and just throw blanket discount codes at your customer, that's great. They probably will convert. But then you're, as a company, so if I'm a marketeer and my KPI is the ROI, making sure I drive, you know, best profit for the business to grow, throwing random discount codes at all customers can be quite damaging to a company, because there's a lot of customers that would buy at full price and they're happy with your brand. But if they get an opportunity for a discount code, I'm sure everyone would use it anyway. So, you know, just avoiding those situations as well. Also, some customers, and we had that in the past, when they see discount code, they actually bounced off the website. And when we asked them why, they said, well, it seems very cheap to them and very spammy. So that's why they just avoided our website, which is interesting to understand. And it shows that you have to cater to the behavior of the customer. So if they're not browsing sale, if they just went to your website, went to one collection, pick a few items straight away, and they're in basket, try to not spam them too much with your messaging. So I think that's the balance between amplifying and saturation. So if you're smart, you can cross-sell and upsell very easily. But
got it. I'm going to go on to Chantal. Welcome back, Alex, and we'll come back to you just a second. I can hear you. Yeah, absolutely. So stay with us, and we'll come back to you next. Chantal, apps. So I've been guilty of this. I've sometimes downloaded an app of a brand's, transacted with it, or done something with it I needed to do, and then when I'm having a cleanup of my phone, the app goes and gets deleted. How can you get customers to keep an app and not delete it?
That's the $1 million question, right? So again, I work with a low frequency product, one of them, the main product. But I think there's two things to it. One, I can also work with a different frequency product mix. So we also have 6Share, which is our car sharing product, and 6Ride, which is our taxi hailing product, if you like, which are higher frequency more often. So I use those channels a bit more to engage with our customers on a more frequent basis. And then it's about what, you know, Danny in particular said around relevance and timing. So again, if you marry that with the answer to my first question, which is looking at the data, looking for cues when a customer is going to likely to engage with your product, then, you know, then start the communication on the app. Now, one of the key things as well is around, I think, you know, if I can use a similar but not analogy to Philippe, around discount codes. Well, push notifications are the same thing, right? It's another driver. You send too many push notifications out, your apps get deleted. So it's a really fine balance, and that's about using all your comms channels along with timing and relevance. So for me, that's working quite well in terms of less deletions than we've had previously. But it's a really suck it and see, test and learn strategy. You've got to try some things, and then of course surprising and delighting customers via in-app notifications and stuff is always not always, it does work, providing again it's timed and it's relevant. So I think the answer is not do one thing, it's a combination of all of those things, and suck it and see what works for your consumer base.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I've had a notification before which has just been like, oh, it's just a nuisance, and that's actually prompted me to delete the app. So I guess it's that balance, right, of making sure it really is the surprise and delight moment. But one of the many touch points that we have to talk to our customers, and touch points, Alex, test your sound.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. It's a bit fainter than before, but we've got some sound, which is great.
I'll come a bit closer to the laptop. There you go.
So those touch points, I'm not sure what you heard before my question, but I was talking about customers jumping all over the place between touch points before, during, after purchase. How do you sweep all that up, capture it all internally to help you maximize customer loyalty, basically?
Yeah, well, first of all, you have to start with what is your end vision? Where do you want to get to? And anyone who has half an idea about what customer experience should look like now, but definitely in 5 years, the end vision should be a customer can ask any question they want so easily across any channel at any time. So that's the end vision. So ask the question how you want. What's the perfect example of that? We have all these amazing natural language processes. You can type, you can speak. So the end vision is, hey, retailer, that parcel I ordered yesterday, when's it coming? That's the end vision, rather than having to sit in a call center queue, go on a chat, tell people. So that's the end vision. But if you're an architect, if your end vision is a roof garden with a beautiful atrium on the top and a swimming pool, you're not going to start building the roof garden before you've built the foundation. So what you have to do is start with, okay, what are the structures of knowledge management? And it starts with primary, secondary, and tertiary. Primary is, okay, customer, do you have a question about an order you haven't yet made, an order you're making, an order you've made, haven't yet received, or an order you've received? Everything will fit into one of those four. So, okay, if it's about an order you haven't yet made, is it about these last three things you've been looking at? So that's the structure for the first stage. If it's about an order you've already made, let's show the customer, okay, is it this one, or this one? So very simple. Okay, Darren, we can see you've made one order, so we know you have a question about that. So the structure needs to be primary, and then secondary is, okay, what are all the most common likely questions a customer could ask us about a question for an order they've placed but haven't already received? Well, it's likely to be, can I change the delivery address? When's it coming? Or actually, I've changed my mind, don't even send it to me. 3 classic examples. So you have to then make sure, okay, we've not had to ask the customer any information about the order, because we know that already, and let's not repeat the process of making them sign in and tell us the order number. Okay, and they've asked us, okay, can they change the delivery address or when's it coming? So let's not give them an automatic crappy reply. Let's actually link our CRM platform, where they've asked that question, to our ERP platform and say, right, what do we know about the parcel Alex has ordered in real time? We can see it's in Scunthorpe. He's asked for it to be delivered to Yorkshire, somewhere at York, but actually he's just said, can it be changed to Cornwall? Alex, well, it is possible, but it'll take an extra 2 days, and we may charge you £2.99. All that needs to be automated. Because if you then, okay, leave it with me, or the standard, your parcel should be there within 2 to 3 working days. Unfortunately, you can't change it when it's already shipped. All these bad processes, you need to chuck them all away and think, how can we get to the end vision? And the last piece, okay, I've received my order, I want to return it. Okay, well, if you return it, you can get a refund, sure, but how about you keep it and we give you something else that could make you feel happier about it? Or how about if you return it, we'll then give you 20% off the one we think you probably should have had, because we've listened to your feedback why you want to return it. So all these data points are there in every business, but again, with respect to my first answer, nobody thinks about that end vision. So ultimately, you want to get to the place where hey, that order I placed 2 days ago, can you send it to my holiday home address instead? I don't have a holiday home. I'm not that wealthy, but if I did, the system would know. Alex, you mean your holiday home in Mallorca? Sure. It'll take an extra 2 days. Here's the DHL tracking number. You're done. Blam. So that is how we need to be thinking now. And I still get huge concern that I don't think companies are thinking in that shape or form. But all the data is there. It's just not used in a how can we make it easier for customers to interact with us. And I've seen so many statistics on customer loyalty. I always think of my own personal influences, and believe it or not, I hired a car 2 weeks ago, and Sixt, unfortunately, I didn't hire with you purely because the prices were I left it too late, Bahrain to UK. But the car hire company, it was one of those aggregators, and I realized, okay, the customer service for the 3 you're giving me, the feedback is so awful. And I've actually checked its real feedback. I'm going to happily go with a direct competitor of yours. And the experience was so slick that I turned up, the keys were ready, because they'd used the data. They told me, hey, upload your driving license 2 days before you get. Actually, no, you don't need to upload your driving license, Alex. Just tell us if anything's changed on it. No, it hasn't. Boom. And I probably will stay loyal to them now because everything about that was easy. But all the data just needs to be focused on how can we make it easy for every customer, and that is the thing that's missing.
Got it. Thank you. Welcome back as well. Your sound was good actually, so all good. So we seem to have got past that little technical hitch. We are 45 minutes almost into this webinar, so we're going to start thinking about wrapping up soon, but I do want to answer that audience question that's been burning a hole and waiting to get an answer. And I'm opening this to the panel, please. So please, fastest finger first on the buzzer, whoever wants to take this. This anonymous attendee, thank you, whoever you are, is interested to know if anyone thinks Gen Z customers do actually want to engage or ask questions in some of the ways that we've been discussing, as they're finding engaging with Gen Z and millennial very different. Any comments?
I can go first purely because we are launching a brand new digital bank, and we're the second to do it in the Middle East. And the Middle East is not that far off. It's different, but not hugely different. 70% of customer questions about opening an account, applying for a credit card came through Twitter. 70%. And the competitor we had would then direct them to other channels and lose the customer. So we are building a process where you can ask us a question through Twitter without having to leave Twitter. So, but I always have a view whether you be a silver surfer. My father is 80 next year. He's on he's learned Instagram and TikTok. I'm like, Dad, please don't. But you got to stop putting people in buckets. Every customer should be able to choose every channel they want at any particular time. So yeah, I don't think there's any value in assuming any particular channel. Give every channel.
By the way, just a bit of nice feedback for you, Chantal. In the chat, someone said that they've always had great customer service from Sixt. So there you go. We take it while we get it. Absolutely, well done.
And actually, I have to say, if my point was seen as derogatory, I used Sixt in Saint-Tropez. Awesome. It was awesome. Thank you.
There you go. Two lots of love for Sixt.
Your £5 are in the post, right?
Excellent. Listen, we're going to be doing a final wrap up of all panelists now. So we're starting with Danny, we'll go on to Alex and Philippe and Chantal. And I want you to think about, panelists, please, the point of the webinar, which was really thriving in the always on digital era. And leave us a top tip. If you want to reiterate anything that you said today, share something that you may not have mentioned or piece of best practice. It's really some closing words for our audience around thriving in this digital era. Era even. I made up a new word there. Danny, I'm going to ask you to start your closing words, please.
Okay, so I always, I just think marketing is really simple. You've just got to think like a customer, or I'm going to say customer or prospect, a consumer, and you work yourself backwards. So, what is it that a customer wants? What am I delivering? What am I not delivering? And then understand your data. And if you don't know what data you've got, you need to find out. It's as simple as that. And, even if you've only got 5 fields, if you've only got 5 fields to your database, start simple, and carry on. But, understand your data, understand what your customers want, and go from there.
Really good closing words. Couldn't have asked for better, actually. So thank you so much. And again, thank you to you for today's contribution, and to Redeye for their ongoing support of the Retail Bulletin as well. It is really appreciated. Alex, I'm sure you've got some closing words for us.
Danny stole the words out of my mouth, but also walk in the shoes of your customers. Whether you're a highly paid executive or sometimes just a middle manager, think of every life cycle stage. How easy is it to ask a question when I'm opening? Think of the unhappy paths. The bank I'm with now was a digital, like Revolut Monza style company, and they thought everything's perfect. We build an app. There are so many unhappy paths. So think about what you need to do when there's an unhappy path. But also then, the point I made is start with your vision. Don't just carry on. What is your vision? If you don't have a North Star, get your CEO to give you a North Star and then turn it into something relevant for your own part of what you do in that company. But you need to know where you're shooting for. And when you know where you're shooting for and you look at what you're delivering right now, you realize, oh my God, the gaps are pretty big. So we better put some change in place.
And it's that overarching vision, right? Because you mentioned before, sort of that siloed working of some of the customer touch points. It doesn't all end up sort of joining up to the same place that we're aiming for. So I think that vision point is really important. Alex, technical problems aside, always a pleasure to have you with us as well, and look forward to welcoming you on a future panel. Philippe, closing words, please, sir.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel and Alex pretty much covered it. It's getting harder and harder the later you get. But apart from understanding your customer, I think research of your customer is quite important. So also coming back to the question, with Gen Z, it'll be, for example, would they spend the most of time? Mostly would be TikTok, maybe Instagram. With millennials, it's actually Facebook and Instagram. And making sure that you actually understand how to use those platforms, because many people wouldn't use TikTok. And so you can get that person that actually does it even in your house or within your family, and understand how each channel works for it to advertise on it. Because if you just advertise on random channels without understanding how it works or how user would behave on the exact channel, you're kind of losing the insights, and you might just look in the wrong places for a customer. It might turn out that that channel is not great for you, but you probably are missing a point.
Thank you, Philippe, and thank you for you coming back and joining us on our panel again. Always a pleasure.
No, pleasure.
Chantal, it's over to you to close this off.
Echoing the whole of my panel, and my little bit of fairy dust on top is just be pragmatic. So we all have challenges around analytics resource, data resource, trying to access the data we need in a timely fashion to do all of the great things that my panelists said. Be pragmatic. That's it. I mean, make the best of what you've got and try a few things. Kiss a few frogs. That's it.
How's that for closing words? Be pragmatic, and actually just such simple but compelling advice as well. So perfect way to end off this second and only final webinar of today. We're just doing the two, just taking up some time for your morning today to allow you to go and work outside in the sun. You know you're all going to, right? If you're based in London, you're going to take the laptops in the garden and go and enjoy the rays. Don't forget, we do record all of our sessions, and so we publish these in the usual places like LinkedIn and YouTube. If you want to talk to these lovely people direct, I am sure that they'll be happy to hear from you, either via the Retail Bulletin, we can put you in touch, or find them on LinkedIn. I'm sure you can track them down. But all that remains for me to say now is to my lovely panel of Danny and Alex and Philippe and Chantal, thank you so much. Thank you to the audience for sticking with us. It's a wrap. Go enjoy the sunshine, and we'll see you at a Retail Bulletin event very soon. Have a great day.